Apple Card is the credit card created by Apple. You earn 3% daily cash back up front when you use it to buy a new iPhone 15, AirPods, or any products at Apple. And you can automatically grow your daily cash at 4.15% annual percentage yield when you open a high-yield savings account. Apply for Apple Card in the Wallet app on iPhone. Apple Card subject to credit approval. Savings is available to Apple Card owners subject to eligibility. Savings accounts by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, member FDIC. Terms apply.
This episode is brought to you by Seed. Seed's DSO1 is a 2-in-1 probiotic and prebiotic designed for whole body health. Formulated with 24 clinically and scientifically studied strains, DSO1 offers benefits in and beyond the gut. See why DSO1 is the probiotic recommended by top doctors and nutritionists. Go to seed.com/Spotify for 25% off Seed's DSO1 Daily Symbiotic.
For Digitas, this is HPE Radio, ad ID 1HPE0350000, spot title HPE Episode 2 English Radio, 15 seconds long, Mixed Harbor on October 11th, 2023.
So, how do we get AI right?
Well, we need the right volume of data and massive compute power. But with HPE GreenLake, we get access to supercomputing to power AI at the scale we need.
All right. Search HPE GreenLake.
Hello and welcome to the Paddock and the Pavilion with Stephen Wallace. In each show, Stephen will interview someone connected to the world of horse racing or cricket.
Hello everyone, back on the show today I am joined by Georgie Heath, sporting journalist, to talk about the Women's World Cup with a guest appearance from the Brazilian women's cricket captain Roberta Moretti Avery. Welcome back to the Paddock and the Pavilion, Georgie.
Hello, thank you for having me again.
Well, are the dogs going to be quiet today?
I doubt it. I mean, I've only got one here today, so I might be all right.
And how tired are you?
I mean, I think tired is kind of a state of mind these days. It's just sort of a generic. If you set the bar quite low for awakeness, then you always seem more awake than you feel, you know? So I set the bar for feeling really tired all the time. And then when I don't feel quite as tired as I assume I'm going to, then it's happy days. I'm winning.
Oh, you've lost me there. But when we last spoke, you weren't working for the Telegraph or writing for the Telegraph and also working for TalkSport during the competition.
Yeah, that was quite cool. It just sort of all happened in the space of about 24 hours. I came back from doing some lacrosse stuff in Portugal and it was like, oh, can you do this, this and this? And I was like, yeah, sure, cool. Said yes to everything. Haven't slept since.
Let's hear how the other member of the Wide Awake Club got on watching the World Cup down in Brazil.
The matches were happening either at 7 p.m., starting at 7 p.m. or starting at 10 p.m. here in Brazil. So the 7 p.m.s were easy. I would definitely watch the first innings of the match and then the first balls of the second innings. But I wouldn't guarantee to be watched everything because it was very tough. My training sessions are in the morning and afternoon. So if I watch the whole game, something else would be compromised. And the 10 o'clocks are tough. But I would get up every day in the morning, connect to the games and watch the last hour, check the scorecards and see what were the best times and watch some of it in the morning. So it was tough, a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of very late nights and very early mornings. But come on, what a World Cup. It was great to see. The matches were amazing. So definitely worth the effort.
And talking off air, you said that your husband spotted that you'd fallen asleep at some points.
Yes, I did believe that I had watched the whole final. It started at 10 o'clock, so I went to sleep like past 5 a.m. And I thought I had watched the whole game. But talking to my husband the next morning, he said that he woke up around 2 a.m. and I was sleeping. So I guess I slept through some overs. For example, I didn't see Kate Cross dismissal. So I guess that was one of the overs that I was sleeping, but I did see after that. So I guess some of my eye closing took a little bit more than a few seconds and maybe a few minutes.
And was Jimmy Anderson watching with you?
He was pretty much every game he was there because he sleeps in the middle, right in the middle of me and my husband. And the final was funny because in the final he slept face in the TV. So I guess he was connected to that one. He really wanted to see. He was supporting England quite badly.
What's your overall thoughts then of the 2022 Women's World Cup?
Yeah, I think it was, as tournaments go, like it had a pretty weird build up, delays, this, that, and the other, quarantines, COVID, masks, testing, people testing positive. But I think it was one of the best displays of women's cricket we've ever seen. It was just amazing. You could see it had so many people talking about it. There were nail biters left, right, and centre. It started with the first game, really, didn't it? West Indies, New Zealand. That went down to the wire, and then from there on, it was pretty much every game was a nail biter. So yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, as an English fan, it was quite stressful at the beginning when we lost 3 on the trot. Note my use of trot there for paddocks and cricket. Clever. God, you can tell I'm sleep deprived. But yeah, so that was quite stressful as an English fan at first, but then it sort of made it more exciting because it was kind of knockout cricket every time we played. And then they stepped up and made it to the final, which was very much, what we kind of expected and hoped, because Australia are just in a class above everyone else at the moment. And so beating them in the final was going to take some doing.
Yeah, on that point, was it inevitable at the start that Australia were always going to get to the final?
I mean, it would have been a real story if they hadn't, to be honest, because they are just far and away the best team in the world. So it would have been an odd one if they didn't make it. Something seriously ridiculous would have had to happen.
I think they've won 40 of the last 42 one-day internationals.
Yeah. I think they've lost 2 since the beginning of 2018. So they're a bit ahead of everyone else.
And who do you think were their standout players in the tournament?
I mean, you can't ignore the role that Alyssa Healy played, but also Rachel Haynes. Like, to be able to anchor an innings like that is pretty damn good, if you ask me. But the thing is, they're one of those sides that you can just keep naming people. You got your Beth Moonies, Alana King, Meg Lanning. They just keep coming and coming and coming. Elise Perry, even when she was injured, they just had everyone to step up. So it's one of those things they could move their batting order around just because they wanted some quick runs scored faster. They could, they just had it all. They can do no wrong, really. So I think it must be quite a nice problem to have that they've just got too many good players. So I think it's quite nice. It's just basically the entire side knew exactly what they wanted to do and delivered on every front, really. They never really faltered throughout the tournament. There was a little bit of a wobble against the West Indies. The West Indies suddenly came out, took loads of wickets quickly. Everyone was like, sorry, what's going on here? And then they were like, no, cool, we'll just recover now. Here we go.
Yeah, you mentioned someone in your sort of roundup there, Alana King, especially after the tragic death of Shane Warne. She was a standout player for them.
Yeah, she really was. I think she's been a great discovery. She was amazing in the Women's Big Bash this year as Perth Scorchers went to victory over the English winter, Australian summer. She's been a great find for Australia. And what a few months she's had. She made her debut in all the formats and then won the World Cup and won the Ashes. So you'd take that as your first few months in international cricket. And obviously she's now coming to join the Trent Rockets alongside Meg Lanning, and then you've also got Nat Siver there and Catherine Brunt, so not a bad side if you ask me.
Certainly right there. Was it a World Cup where we've seen more strength in depth than ever before?
Yeah, I think so. People can talk about England and what we need to change and what's going on there, but you've got sides like Pakistan won their first game since 2009, their first World Cup game, and that's a really long time. And then you've got Bangladesh making their debut, getting the win. You've got New Zealand doing their thing, and it was just the West Indies rocked up on some days, were absolutely incredible. Other days, maybe not. But it's sort of, you had lots of youngsters coming through. It's one of those tournaments that's, really nice actually to see so many young people coming through. But then at the same time, you've got your stalwarts of the English game, the women's game, the global game, still performing at the top as well. So it's, I think as games go, and then you saw some of the catches. Some of those catches are absolute screamers throughout the entire tournament. So there was just so much good cricket on display that was just amazing.
Yeah, talking about the catching, there was so many brilliant catches, and the fielding really stood out, I thought, during the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, early on in the tournament, that's where England really fell down. Their fielding was poor. Dropping Laura Wolvaardt so many times, that's unforgettable, really. As she went on to score 77 in that game. But yeah, some of the catches that were taken were absolute screamers, like Deandra Dottin just flying. Heather Knight took a screamer. Ash Gardner. Basically, there's just so many of them you almost can't really count it. It was quite hard. I had a little vote on the BBC. They had a who did the best catch of the tournament kind of thing. And I was like, I actually don't know which one I want to vote for. My heart was like, just go for Heather Knight because she's English. But then there were just some incredible ones. And I liked seeing all the memes they got made into and GIFs and stuff. They were quite fun.
And you mentioned fielding there from England's point of view. When we lost our first 3 games against Australia, West Indies and South Africa, some of that was down to our poor fielding.
Yeah, and we've said it before and we'll say it again, catches win matches. And you can't afford to be dropping world-class players like Laura Wolvaardt 3 times. And we saw it against us as well. Danny Wyatt got dropped 5 times on the way to her 100 in the semi-finals. So, yeah, it's the kind of thing, and I hate that people are like, oh, girls can't catch, because they can. And I think some of the fielding, I was like, oh, please, let's not go back to this. We've come so far in the women's game. Let's not lose it just because of something so trivial like not being able to catch or not fielding properly or misfields. But some of it was just amazing. You're like, this is what we want to see. This is the advancement of the women's game. You can't afford to be unfit, not be able to take catches, not be able to run around the field, day after day. And you've got a few days between games. Like, you've got to be able to recover quickly. And I think it's a testament to how far the game has come, the work behind the scenes, the fitness, the fielding. To put on that kind of display in that tournament was real testament to how far the women's game has come.
And talking of England's, those first 3 losses, we did run Australia relatively close. They lost by 12 runs in that first game with Nat Sciver scoring a century.
Yeah, I know, poor old Nat Sciver, 2 centuries on the side of 2 losses to Australia. It's a bit of a shame, really, isn't it? But yeah, that was one of those. We weren't performing at our best in that game. So I was like, you know what? We've pushed them. We're only 12 runs off. First game. We'd just come off the back of an unsuccessful Ashes. You would have thought maybe there'd be some scar tissue there from that. But England really rallied in that one. There were drop catches. There were things to work on. And it was a shame that we came off on the wrong side of that one. But I guess in the end, it didn't matter. We still made it to the final. And actually, once you get to the final, that's all that matters. Doesn't matter what happened earlier on in the tournament, unless you're trying to, build some momentum. When we had momentum going into that final, obviously on the back of 5 wins because we lost the first 3. So you would have thought we were in the best possible position we could have been. But Australia came out, they did what they do best, and they were phenomenal. Lots of people waking up on that Sunday morning, but oh my God, Australia have scored so many runs. How has this happened? But it was just them on a complete level of their own. Like Alyssa Healy just absolutely having a ball, loving life. She's so good. Rachel Haynes, can't forget that. I mean, she didn't get the 100, but she was right there at the beginning. And if you can set the foundations of an innings in that kind of way, then you're away flying on a fast camel, aren't you?
Yeah, just going back just a bit, how well do you think England did to win those 5 we were playing quarterfinals for 5 matches to win 5 games in a row?
Yeah, I think it was a determined bunch of players that went out there to do those. They knew they hadn't performed how they should have done, maybe wanted to do in the first 3 games. You want to go to a tournament and win every game. That's just how it is. You always want to win a game. And so I think coming off the back of those first 3, they were quite disappointed. Some of them admitted they thought they were down and out, and that was it. They were out the tournament. They wouldn't make the semi-finals. But I think once they realised that they could make it and they just had to put in the win in every game pretty much at that point, I think that's a sign of the mental strength of that side, because you could have so easily just been like, right, we're down and out. Oh, here we go. We'll just go through the motions and then we'll all go home. We've had a very long time away from home. We're really tired. So I think they did really well to fight back the way they did. And that game against India, they absolutely smashed it, didn't they? So it was nice to see Catherine Brunt and Anna Shrubsole back in the wickets again as well.
Yeah, who would you say are the positives for England in leading up to the final?
I mean, you can't ignore Sophie Ecclestone, but she didn't perform against the Aussies early on, and it wasn't her best in the final, but she was great other than that. Obviously, Danny Wyatt going up the order, it was a bit of hit and miss, but the hits were great. The misses, that just happens. And I think you just have to let Danny swing. That's just how she wants to play. That's her way of playing. You can't ignore Charlie Dean. She's a great reflection of how far the domestic game has come in this country as well. Obviously playing at the Vipers and then playing in the 100. She might not have been given this opportunity without those. So that's quite nice to see that foundation is bringing through those young players. Sophia Dunkley, I think, is my England standout because she was just so fab. She sort of anchored the innings quite a few times, always playing with a smile on her face, always looking for that second run, running around the outfield. She's so quick as well. And I think she's just a real find for England, and she's only going to get better and better. And I've said it before, I think, potential future England captain in Sophia Dunkley. She's got that right attitude.
And so many of those players you just mentioned are very young as well.
Yeah, I think that's what's so good as well. And I think that's another sign of the domestic format, that there is that chance for so many players to come through and get to play lots and lots of cricket and hone their skills. And then as we look for the next World Cup cycle, potentially there'll be retirements. You would have thought maybe, who knows yet, but they're already there, got that experience stepping up. You still got your Tash Farrants, your Emma Lambs, you've got Lauren Bell, Izzy Wong potentially coming up through. There's lots of them sort of ready to step up, which is really nice to have that foundation. And you just think maybe as we look to the future, do we, just bring in those young players as soon as possible, potentially for Commonwealth Games, or do we do Commonwealth Games and then think, right, what's the next World Cup cycle look like?
Yeah, the next World Cup's in 3 years' time. Where is it being played?
Hasn't been announced yet.
That's why I couldn't find the venue when I was doing some research.
Yeah, and then 2029, they're increasing it to 10 teams.
And what did Roberta think of the 2022 Women's World Cup?
I think the tournament was amazing. It was a great display of women's cricket. The games had such close finishes. The way that South Africa came fighting and bowling and playing, it was amazing. The way West Indies were able to hang on and be qualified for the semifinals was actually surprising to me. I didn't put them in my four teams to finish the World Cup, but I thought that the level of cricket was very good. From every nation, you could see them fighting, and that really meant a lot for them. And it meant a lot for us as well, supporters from this side of the world. It was a great World Cup to watch.
And did you expect Australia to win the tournament?
I did think Australia was very good. What a team. I was talking about the final. We had Liz Perry, the best all-rounder at the time in the rankings, coming in to bat 10 balls in the end. It's such a strong, good team that they managed to have Liz Perry just to bat 10 balls, score 17 runs, and they still played the way they did. So that team, I think, is the best team I ever seen play before. I never saw anything similar to that. So I knew they were going to be the ones to beat. I did think that England came strongly in the final. They had the best chance of winning would be them. But yes, I expect Australia to win over there. I was very happy and very surprised the way England came back after 3 defeats in the start. They had pretty much a final every game after that, and they played very well. Maybe because of that, because every game was so decisive from the 4th game onwards, maybe that's why they arrived a little bit more fatigued in Australia as well, because Australia had a much easier flow to the final. But England, I was very surprised and very proud of them. I think they played great cricket in this World Cup to show them that they are over there to fight. And I'm 100% sure that the Commonwealth Games, the next T20 World Cup, they're going to be fighting for a win as well.
And as a whole, the tournament as a whole, what would you say was your moment of the tournament?
Ooh, moment of the tournament. Oh, it was really nice. Okay, so this tournament had 8 mums playing, which I think is great. And there's this picture of Pakistan captain Bismar Maroof with her 6-month-old kid Fatima, having selfies with all of the Indian players. And if you think about India-Pakistan in cricket, that is like the big rivalry up there with England-Australia. And see something like that, and then she's travelled around with her side, led her side from the front, with a kid in tow, and then to have like moments like that, I think shows just how great the global game is, that they've got their relationship across the game, but still that opportunity. Obviously, Pakistan brought in their maternity policy. It's not that long ago, maybe last year, when she got pregnant. So I think something like that, I think it was kind of my moment of this series. It was nice to see something like that. Otherwise, Sophie Ecclestone getting her first international fifer was pretty cool, because she's at the top of the rankings and she's not had one yet. And then so she just casually took 6. Once she came on to bowl, she took every wicket available in that game, which was cool.
And is player of the tournament too easy to answer?
Who are you going for?
Well, I was thinking that the Elisa Healy in the final and the semi-final getting centuries.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really look past it. I'd put Rachel Haynes up there as well, because actually she was pretty damn good through the entire thing. Like I said, they put in a great foundation together, but I think you can't really look past Elisa Healy. Also, I just think she's really great, and it annoys me because I want to hate her because she's Australian and because she's so good, but she's just so good and she seems so cool. And then like I just really like the idea that Mitchell Starc rocked up as well to support her, and I was like, you know what, he's the second best cricketer in their house, and they've just got a lot of World Cups between them. I just want to see them at like Parents' Sports Day or something, you know. Can you imagine?
It'd make a good sledge, though, if you were playing against, well, you could pick either of them, really, couldn't you? When you were playing against Mitchell Starc, what you just said there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't think he would mind too much, probably then just bowl at your head. But yeah, they're just a couple goals, those two. And there were just images of them like eating donuts just after the game, just to celebrate.
Oh my God, my moment of the tournament. I think for me, the biggest, not surprise, but the biggest, what I was really looking forward every time in the tournament was South Africa bowling. I think they were so good. I love Ismail. I love Cap. I think every time they were going, I was watching closely. I couldn't wait for that to happen. I cannot say anything different from also Sophie Ecclestone. I loved her to bits to see her bowl. It's one of the things that you cannot take your eyes off. You're always expecting something to happen. But the level of the fielding that we had in this World Cup just shows that women's cricket is going to more professional, more athletic, more fierce level. And I think that is something that Australia has been doing that for some time, but you see that now every other country is going and following those steps, maybe because of the development of the national leagues and more professionalism into cricket, but you can see that happen. For me, one of the best moments that showed that this World Cup was on fire, and it was going to be on fire to the end, was the first catch, Deandra Dotting's catch. Amazing, on point. For me, she's one of the best points in the world. And I think that was when it showed, okay, this is starting. This is World Cup time. Let's show what we have. For me, I'm never going to forget that catch.
That was when she caught Lauren Winfield Hill, wasn't it, against England?
Yes. Left-handed jumping, beautiful, beautiful. She's a star. We don't have as many boundaries as men's, so fielding makes a big difference. If you have a good fielding side, that's going to stop the fours, it's going to stop the twos, that's going to have some amazing catches, that's going to be the turning point of games. And you can see that now. You can see that happening more and more. And those teams that are really having great fielding displays are the ones that are getting the other teams for less runs and having more opportunities and going forward in these big tournaments. So I do believe that the next years, fielding is going to be a massive part of these national big sides. And we're going to see great displays of it very, very soon.
And for New Zealand, it was great that there was a full crowd in the final.
Yeah, I think... standing yawn. I think that was really great that they managed to get it to that point, because there were questions early on if it would all be behind closed doors or what was going to go on. So I think it was difficult for organisers to know what was going to happen. And then broadcasters trying to get from one semi-final to another semi-final. It was a storm. It was so windy. And so there was a lot to battle with, but it looked quite sold out in the end, the final. I'm not really sure what the numbers were. It wasn't quite a sold out Lords, because that was a very poignant moment for England in 2017. But it was nice. And also to see so many young fans out there, boys, girls, anyone, all just getting involved, game behind the game. So it's quite nice.
Yeah, they've got some great venues out there. I've been to Mount Maunganui and Hamilton, and both of those two grounds were used.
Yeah, it looked pretty cool. I've not been, sadly, but I would like to. It looked pretty cool. New Zealand's meant to be a very cool place.
What do you think the competition means for cricket and for women's sport?
I don't know, it just kind of just did what we were all hoping it would do. It just increased. It was annoying with the time difference, obviously, because people trying to watch it through the night and that kind of thing. Getting youngsters to watch it when it's on, God only knows what time in the night, is quite hard. But I think it didn't do anything bad for the women's game. There was so much to celebrate and so much to look at that was amazing, that youngsters can look at it and be like, right, okay, I want to get involved in that, or I know that person's coming over to play in this franchise or play in that one, or do this, or I want to hit a shot like that, or I want to play like Alyssa Healy this week, you know? And so I think it was a really good demonstration of the women's game and what it can be, and the potential for the women's game going forward. And I like I said, the idea there's going to be 10 teams in the 2029 World Cup is no bad thing.
What do you think the competition means for cricket and women's cricket?
I think I'm a big believer that you cannot be what you cannot see. So when these kind of competitions happen, and women all over the world are able to watch it and follow it and see what other women, and not only experience, we see a lot of young girls. You see the Vermas, you see the girls, they're very young age playing that level of cricket. You see the Deans playing that. You get inspired by them, and you set up yourself to the next level. So every associate country, every girl that is watching over there wants to be like those women and those girls that are playing the World Cup. So you see this big value that women's cricket is getting, and how much they are inspiring the next generation and the girls that are currently playing now. So for me, it's a question of inspiring and leaving a legacy for the other ones, and showing that women's cricket is here to stay. And we want to be bigger, better, and the girls all over the world, women all over the world, cricketers all over the world want to see that too. So for me, it's a big step into the next generation and showing what we can do.
And has it had a big impact in Brazil and other players in your team?
Yes, we have, usually we have a 15, 20 minutes warm-up before the proper warm-up when the game starts. And during this whole March, the conversation on this warm-up has been World Cup. So we are talking about what happened the game the night before. We are talking about the players from the night before. We are talking about our predictions. And some girls can watch a lot of it. Some girls can watch the highlights. But everybody was talking about it. So suddenly, 3-4 years ago, these girls wouldn't know the names of the English players, Australian players, the Indian players. Now everybody knows them. Everybody wants to do them. They make a shot. They say, oh, this is like Laura's shot. They make a catch. They're calling the catch from someone else. So they're being inspired by this girl. So it's amazing to see how much it affects our day-to-day life, because they are looking at this girl. They want to know how they can be like them. So yes, we have been talking about women's cricket for a long time in our training sessions lately.
And as you said earlier on the podcast, there's so much cricket this summer in England, with South Africa and India touring, the Commonwealth Games, and also the 100.
Yeah, and not forgetting the Rachel Hayhoe-Flint Trophy and the Charlotte Edwards Cup.
Yeah.
And then obviously all the county stuff too. So yeah, there is just so much. Commonwealth, I think, will be really, really cool to see, because it's at Edgbaston. There isn't a men's tournament, so it's only women's cricket. So I think that's going to be a really good one. Obviously, there's some really top teams, like you've still got England, Australia in there. So it's going to be really good, I think.
Well, lots to keep you busy and to keep you awake.
I'm off to Dubai for a fair break also in a few weeks' time. So that is another celebration of the global women's game. You've got, fully fledged member players, and then you've got associate players all on teams together. So it's going to be a really cool event to see.
Well, you'll be joined by Roberta there, because I understand she's going off to Dubai.
Roberta is playing. She's on the team sponsored by the Barmy Army Standard. So, we're quite excited to actually get to meet in person, myself and Roberta. It'll be quite fun. And so, it's going to be a really good event, I think. I've just been on a call with someone this morning. So, it's going to be really good.
And when's that being played?
In Dubai, the 1st of May it starts.
Well, enjoy the 1st of May and enjoy Roberta. You will be together on this podcast, even though you're not on at the same time. And you will be able to see her in person at the end of April or very early May. Thank you again for being on the Paddock and the Pavilion and for keeping awake and keep busy. And thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for all your support always. Nice to be on.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Paddock and the Pavilion. You can download the show on Apple Podcasts,
Amazon Music,
SoundCloud, Stitcher and Spotify.
Follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram at The Pad and Pav. Don't forget, if you like the show, please do leave us a rating and review.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Let's face it, most people aren't making massive turkey feasts on the regular, and after 364 days of not thinking about it, it can be hard to get that bird just right. That's where Instacart, the holiday rescue app, comes in. From getting all the ingredients to prep a full seasonal spread to getting last-minute swaps in a turkey emergency, Instacart has everything a holiday host needs to save face and save dinner. And right now, if you download Instacart, you get free delivery on your first 3 orders and delivery in as fast as 1 hour. Offer valid for a limited time. $10 minimum per order. Additional terms apply.